Dances with Wolves. Dances with Wolves is a 1990 American epic Western film starring, directed, and produced by Kevin Costner in his feature directorial debut. It is a film adaptation of the 1988 book of the same name by Michael Blake that tells the story of Union Army Lieutenant John J. Dunbar Costner, who travels to the American frontier to find a military post, and of his dealings with a group of Lakota. Costner developed the film with an initial budget of $15 million. Much of the dialogue is spoken in Lakota with English subtitles. It was shot from July to November 1989 in South Dakota and Wyoming and translated by Doris Leader Charge of the Lakota Studies Department at Sinte Gleska University. The film earned favorable reviews from critics and audiences who praised Costner's directing, the performances, screenplay, and production values. The film was a box office hit, grossing $424.02 million worldwide, making it the fourth highest grossing film of 1990 and is the highest grossing film for Orion Pictures. The film was nominated for 12 Academy Awards at the 63rd Academy Awards and won 7, including Best Picture, Best Director for Costner, Best Adapted Screenplay, Best Film Editing, Best Cinematography, Best Original Score, and Best Sound Mixing. The film also won the Golden Globe Award for Best Motion Picture Drama. It is one of only 3 Westerns to ever win the Oscar for Best Picture, the other 2 being Cimarron 1931 and Unforgiven 1992. The film is credited as a leading influence for the revitalization of the Western genre of filmmaking in Hollywood. In 2007, Dances with Wolves was selected for preservation in the United States National Film Registry by the Library of Congress as being culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant. Plot. In 1863, First Lieutenant John J. Dunbar is wounded in battle at St. David's Field in Tennessee. Choosing death in battle over amputation of his foot, he takes a horse and rides up to and along the Confederate lines. Confederate forces fire repeatedly at him and miss, and the Union Army takes advantage of the distraction to mount a successful attack. Dunbar receives both a citation for bravery and medical care that allows him to keep his foot. He is subsequently awarded Cisco, the horse that carried him during his suicide attempt, and his choice of posting. Dunbar requests a transfer to the western frontier, so he can see it before it disappears. Dunbar is transferred to Fort Hays, a large fort commanded by Major Fambra, an unhinged officer who despises Dunbar's enthusiasm. He agrees to post Dunbar to the furthest outpost under his jurisdiction, Fort Sedgwick, and kills himself shortly afterwards. Dunbar travels with Timmins, a mule wagon provisioner. They arrive to find the fort deserted. Despite the threat of nearby native tribes, Dunbar elects to stay and man the post himself. He begins rebuilding and restocking the fort and prefers the solitude, recording many of his observations in his diary. Timmins is killed by Pawnee on the journey back to Fort Hays. The deaths of both Timmins and Fambra prevent other soldiers from knowing of Dunbar's assignment, and no other soldiers arrive to reinforce the post. Dunbar encounters his Sioux neighbors when they attempt to steal his horse and intimidate him. Deciding that being a target is a poor prospect, he decides to seek out the Sioux camp and attempt dialogue. On his way, he comes across Stands with a Fist, the white adopted daughter of the tribe's medicine man Kicking Bird, who is ritually mutilating herself while mourning for her husband. Dunbar brings her back to the Sioux to recover. Though the tribe is initially hostile, some of the members soon begin to respect him. Eventually, Dunbar establishes a rapport with Kicking Bird, the warrior wind in his hair, and the youth smiles a lot, initially visiting each other's camps. The language barrier frustrates them, and Stands with a Fist acts as an interpreter, although with difficulty. She only remembers a little English from her early childhood before the rest of her family was killed during a Pawnee raid. Dunbar discovers that the stories he had heard about the tribe were untrue, and he develops a growing respect and appreciation for their lifestyle and culture. Learning their language, he is accepted as an honored guest by the Sioux after he tells them of a migrating herd of buffalo and participates in the hunt. When at Fort Sedgwick, Dunbar befriends a wolf he dubs Two Socks for its white forepaws. Observing Dunbar and Two Socks chasing each other, the Sioux give him the name Dances with Wolves. During this time, Dunbar also forges a romantic relationship with Stands with a Fist and helps defend the village from an attack by the rival Pawnee tribe. Dunbar eventually wins Kickingbird's approval to marry Stands with a Fist and abandons Fort Sedgwick. Because of the growing threat from the Pawnee and the U.S. chief Ten Bears decides to move the tribe to its winter camp, Dunbar decides to accompany them, but must first retrieve his diary from Fort Sedgwick as he realizes that it would provide the army with the means to find the tribe. When he arrives, he finds the fort reoccupied by the U.S. Army. Because of his Sioux clothing, the soldiers open fire, killing Cisco and capturing Dunbar, arresting him as a traitor. Two officers interrogate him, but Dunbar cannot prove his story, as a corporal has found his diary and kept it for himself. Having refused to serve as an interpreter to the tribes, Dunbar is charged with desertion and transported back east as a prisoner. Soldiers of the escort shoot Two Socks when the wolf attempts to follow Dunbar, despite Dunbar's attempts to intervene. Eventually, the Sioux track the convoy, killing the soldiers and freeing Dunbar. They assert that they do not see him as a white man, but as a Sioux warrior called Dances with Wolves. At the winter camp, Dunbar decides to leave with Stands with a Fist because his continuing presence would endanger the tribe. As they leave, Smiles a Lot returns the diary, which he recovered during Dunbar's liberation, and Wind in His Hair shouts to Dunbar, reminding him that he is Dunbar's friend, a contrast to their original meeting where he shouted at Dunbar in hostility. U.S. troops are seen searching the mountains, but cannot locate Dunbar or the tribe, while a lone wolf howls in the distance. An epilogue states, 13 years later their homes destroyed, their buffalo gone, the last band of free Sioux submitted to white authority at Fort Robinson, Nebraska. The great horse culture of the plains was gone, and the American frontier was soon to pass into history. Cast. Production. Originally written as a speculation script by Michael Blake, it went unsold in the mid-1980s. However, Kevin Costner had starred in Blake's only previous film, Stacy's Nights, 1983, and encouraged Blake in early 1986 to turn the Western screenplay into a novel to improve its chances of being produced. The novel was rejected by numerous publishers, but finally was published in paperback in 1988. The rights were purchased by Costner, with an eye on directing it. Costner and his producing partner, Jim Wilson, had difficulty in raising money for the film. The project was turned down by several studios due to the Western genre no longer being popular as it was during the 1980s following the disastrous box office of Heaven's Gate 1980, as well as the length of the script. After the project languished at both Nelson Entertainment and Island Pictures due to budget reasons, Costner and Wilson enlisted producer Jake Eberts to manage foreign rights in several countries for Costner to retain final cut rights. The two then made a deal with Orion Pictures, in which the studio would distribute the film in North America. Actual production lasted from July 18 to November 23, 1989. Most of the movie was filmed on location in South Dakota, mainly on private ranches near Pierre and Rapid City, with a few scenes filmed in Wyoming. Specific locations included the Badlands National Park, the Black Hills, the Sage Creek Wilderness area, and the Belforch River area. The bison hunt scenes were filmed at the Triple U Buffalo Ranch outside Fort Pierre, South Dakota, as were the Fort Sedgwick scenes, the set being constructed on the property. Reception. Defying expectations, Dances with Wolves proved instantly popular, eventually earning great critical acclaim, making $184 million in U.S. box office and $424 million in total worldwide. As of 13 July 2019, The film holds an approval rating of 83% on Rotten Tomatoes, based on 76 reviews, with an average rating of 7.58/10. The website's critical consensus reads, "A grand, sweeping epic with inarguably noble intentions and arresting cinematography, but one whose center, arguably, is not as weighty as it should be." Metacritic gave the film a score of 72 out of 100 based on 20 critical reviews, indicating generally favorable reviews. CinemaScore reported that audiences gave the film a rare plus grade. Dances with Wolves was named one of the top -10 films of 1990 by over 115 critics, and was named the best film of the year by 19 critics. Only Goodfellas was included on more lists in 1990. Because of the film's popularity and lasting impact on the image of Native Americans, the Sioux Nation adopted Costner as an honorary member. At the 63rd Academy Awards ceremony in 1991, Dances with Wolves earned 12 Academy Award nominations and won 7, including Best Writing, Adapted Screenplay Michael Blake, Best Director Costner, and Best Picture. In 2007, the Library of Congress selected Dances with Wolves for preservation in the United States National Film Registry. Native American activist and actor Russell Means was critical of the film's technical accuracy. In 2009, he said, "Remember Lawrence of Arabia? That was Lawrence of the Plains. The odd thing about making that movie is that they had a woman teaching the actors the Lakota language, but Lakota has a male-gendered language and a female-gendered language. Some of the natives and Kevin Costner were speaking in the feminine way when I went to see it with a bunch of Lakota. The dialogues in the native language have been lauded as a remarkable achievement." Other writers, though, have noted that earlier otherwise English-language films, such as Eskimo 1933, Wagon Master 1950, and The White Dawn 1974 had also incorporated native dialogue. David Sirota of Salon referred to Dances with Wolves as a white savior film, as Dunbar fully embeds himself in the Sioux tribe and quickly becomes its primary protector. He argued that its use of the noble savage character type preemptively blunts criticism of the underlying white savior story. The idea is that a film like Dances with Wolves cannot be bigoted or overly white-centric if it at least shows characters such as Kicking Bird and Chief 10 Bears as special and exceptional. This even though the whole story is about a white guy who accolades. In addition to becoming the first Western film to win an Academy Award for Best Picture since 1931's Cimarron, Dances with Wolves won a number of additional awards, making it one of the most honored films of 1990. Home media. The film was released on home video in the United States in September 1991 and beat the rental record set by Ghost, renting 649,000 units. Dances with Wolves was released on Blu-ray and DVD on January 11, 2011, and was re-released on Blu-ray on January 13, 2015, and again on November 13, 2018. Sequel. The Holy Road, a sequel novel by Michael Blake, the author of both the original novel and the movie screenplay, was published in 2001. It picks up 11 years after Dances with Wolves. John Dunbar is still married to Stands with a Fist, and they have 3 children. Stands with a Fist and one of the children are kidnapped by a party of white rangers, and Dances with Wolves must mount a rescue mission. As of 2007, Blake was writing a film adaptation. Costner, who has refused to do sequels to any of his films, including The Untouchables, stated he would not take part in this production. A third book titled The Great Mystery was planned, but Blake died in 2015. Historical references. Judith A. Water wrote, "The problem with Costner's approach is that all of the Sioux are heroic." Historic Fort Hays was founded in 1867, with the iconic stone blockhouse being built immediately. Its predecessor, Fort Fletcher 1865–1868, was abandoned for only a few months and then relocated only a short distance in 1866. Fort Hays was founded in Cheyenne Territory rather than Sioux. Rather than a desolate site, the fort was host to thousands of soldiers, railroad workers, and settlers from the start. The Kansas Pacific Railway and the settlements of Rome and Hays City were built next to the fort in 1867. Each was a perceived violation of Cheyenne and Arapaho territory, resulting in immediate warfare with the Dog Soldiers. The fort was Sheridan's headquarters at the center of the 1867–68 conflict. A historic seasonal Pawnee, Tippy Village had been located only 9 miles 14 km from Fort Hays, but the Pawnee had been excluded from it by other dominant tribes for some time by the 1860s. The real John Dunbar worked as a Christian missionary among the Pawnee in the 1830s–40s and sided with the Native Americans in a dispute with government farmers and a local Indian agent. It is unclear whether the name John Dunbar was chosen as a corollary to the historical figure. The fictional Lieutenant John Dunbar of 1863 is correctly shown in the film wearing a gold bar on his officer's shoulder straps, indicating his rank as a first lieutenant. From 1836 to 1872, the rank of first lieutenant was indicated by a gold bar. After 1872, the rank was indicated by a silver bar. Similarly, Captain Cargill is correctly depicted wearing a pair of gold bars, indicating the rank of captain at that time. In an interview, author and screenwriter Michael Blake said that Stands with a Fist, the white captive woman who marries Dunbar, was actually based upon the story of Cynthia and Parker, the white girl captured by Comanches and mother of Quanah Parker. Extended version. 1 year after the original theatrical release of Dances with Wolves, a 4-hour version of the film opened at select theaters in London. This longer cut was titled Dances with Wolves, the special edition, and it restored nearly an hour's worth of scenes that had been removed to keep the original film's running time under 3 hours. In a letter to British film reviewers, Kevin Costner and producer Jim Wilson addressed their reasons for presenting a longer version of the film. Why add another hour to a film that by most standards pushes the time limit of conventional movie making? The 52 additional minutes that represent this new version were difficult to cut in the first place, and the opportunity to introduce them to audiences is compelling. We have received countless letters from people worldwide asking when or if a sequel would be made, so it seemed like a logical step to enhance our film with existing footage. Making an extended version is by no means to imply that the original Dances with Wolves was unfinished or incomplete. Rather, it creates an opportunity for those who. The genesis of the 4-hour version of the film was further explained in an article for Entertainment Weekly that appeared 10 months after the premiere of the original film. While the small screen has come to serve as a second chance for filmmakers who can't seem to let their babies go, Kevin Costner and his producing partner, Jim Wilson, hope that their newly completed version will hit theater screens first. I spent 7 months working on it, Wilson says of the expanded Wolves. He's quick to defend the Oscar-winning version as the best picture we had in us at the time, yet Wilson also says he's ecstatic over the recut. It's a brand new picture, he insists. There's now more of a relationship between Kevin and Stands with a Fist, more with the wolf, more with the Indians, stuff that's integral all through the story. Of course, exhibitors may not want a longer version of an already widely seen movie, but Wilson remains optimistic. I don't think the time is now, he acknowledges, but ideally there is a point at which it would come out with an intermission, booked into the very best venues in America. Costner later claimed that he did not work on the creation of the 4-hour cut at all. Soundtrack. John Barry composed the Oscar-winning score. It was issued in 1990 initially and again in 1995 with bonus tracks and in 2004 with the score in its entirety. Peter Buffett scored the fire dance scene.